Said, "You're pregnant, it's mine, right?" She replied, "Close the door." The plastic stick tapped the granite once, twice, 3 times. Each little click hit me harder than a punch. Elena did not put it down. She held the pregnancy test like a piece of evidence. White body, blue cap, 2 clear pink lines in the tiny window. Her fingers were steady. Her mouth was not. She stood in the open back doorway, framed by soft afternoon light. Her dark hair fell over one shoulder. The house behind her was quiet and neat. The kind of neat you only have when you keep all your chaos inside your chest. I was on the porch. Outside. Half in, half out. My hand was on the screen door handle, ready to leave, ready to walk in. My gray t-shirt pulled tight across my chest with every breath. 2 lines, I said. My voice sounded dry, like I had swallowed dust. "That means I'm pregnant, Julian," she answered. She did not look at the test. She looked at me. Not at my hands. Not at my mouth. Straight into my eyes, like she was checking to see if I would run. The air between us felt heavy. It was full of all the rules we had broken without meaning to. A whole year of working late side by side. Coffee at 6 in the morning. Fights over design choices. Her voice cutting through meetings and my hands bringing her ideas to life. And above all, her rule. No relationships between executives and direct reports. No exceptions. My throat worked once. "It's mine," I said. This time it came out like a question, even though I wanted it to be a fact. "Right." Elena's lips pressed together. Then they curved into a small, dry smile that did not reach her eyes. "Close the door," she said softly. "We need to talk like adults." I froze for half a second. The test clicked against the counter again when her grip tightened. That tiny sound hit me harder than any speech. "Julian?" she said. My name carried a warning, and something that felt a lot like a plea. "In, now!" I stepped over the threshold and shut the door. The lock clicked. The sound felt final. Her kitchen looked like one of our renderings. White stone, dark cabinets, clean lines. No mess. No signs of a life that included a baby. No magnets on the fridge. No cereal boxes. No random toys. Just Elena. The test in her hand. And me. She set the stick down on a folded napkin between us. The 2 pink lines stared up at both of us. "How far along?" I asked. 8 weeks, she said. I did the math in my head. The count lined up with 1 night. 1 place. "The retreat," I said. "The lodge in Wisconsin." Her jaw tightened. "Yes." I gripped the back of the bar stool so hard my knuckles went white. "I remember the storm," I said slowly. "I remember the donors leaving early. The roads closing. I remember the power going out." "And the brandy," she added, her eyes steady on mine. "Yeah, the brandy." I tried to smile. It did not stick. I also remember my hands so cold I could not feel my own fingers. "Hypothermia will do that," she said. There was no joke in her tone, only fact. Here is what I remembered for sure. The lodge bar was half lit. The staff was tired. My suit jacket was soaked. Elena was in a black dress, hair up, feet bare under the tall bar stool. She told me to sit down and stop shaking the glasses on the table. I remember the burn of brandy on an empty stomach. I remembered her hand on my wrist when my teeth would not stop chattering. I remembered her room because mine had no working heater. The walls smelled like cedar. Her shampoo smelled like jasmine. My body finally stopped shaking when I sat close to her under the extra blanket. The rest of the night was clear and not clear at the same time. It was like it was covered in fog. I knew I had not blacked out. I had walked, I had talked, I had made choices. But the sharp edges of it, the exact words, the exact order, they slid around in my memory like wet glass. I hated that feeling. "Elena," I said quietly, "I need you to tell me what you remember." She pulled in a slow breath. "You came back from the donor dinner soaked through," she said. "You were shivering so hard you could not hold a pen. Your lips were almost gray. You ordered brandy like an idiot." "Sounds like me," I muttered. "I told you to eat something. You refused." She went on. "You said we had to fix the Dover atrium before morning. You were stubborn and proud and shaking." She looked down at the test, then back at me. I got you into my room because mine still had heat, she said. You asked if you could sit close. Not for anything else. For warmth. I told you we could call the lodge, nurse. You said no. You took my hand and nodded once. Clear. No slur, no spin. My chest loosened a little, not much, enough to breathe. And then, I asked. You leaned in, she said, voice softer now, slow, like you were asking again. I did not step back. I swallowed. So I kissed you, I said. Yes, she answered. You kissed me like you had lost everything else already. Silence filled the space between us. The fridge hummed. The heater clicked on. A car passed somewhere outside. I need you to hear me very clearly, Julian, she said. I was not drunk. I was not confused. I knew exactly who was in my bed and why. She tapped the test with one finger. This baby is not an accident from a night I did not choose, she said. I chose you. Once. On purpose. Quote, something inside my chest came loose at those words. Not all the way, just enough to stop the worst fear. I moved around the island and leaned my hip against the counter across from her. I kept my hands where she could see them. I remember the way it felt to hold you, I said. Even if the order of things is blurry. I remember how the room stopped spinning when you were close, and I can say this without any doubt. I do not regret it. Her eyes searched mine like she was trying to find a crack. You will, she said, when the board hears, when HR hears. When they start talking about policy and power and who should have stopped this. Let them talk, I said. It came out faster than my brain could warn me. They can come at me all they want. Her laugh was short and sharp. You think they will not come at me too, she asked. I am the one who made the rule, Julian. No relationships with direct reports. I signed it. The ink is mine. She picked up the test again. The plastic clicked against her ring. They will call it a conflict, she said. They will call it a scandal. They might even call it a reason to vote me out. And what do you call it? I asked. She looked right at me. A baby with a heartbeat, she said. And a man who deserves to know if that heartbeat is his. My throat closed for a second. I had to force the words out. So we check, I said. We count weeks. We go to a doctor. We do this the right way. Her shoulders dropped a little, just a little. The appointment is at 10, she said. They will do an ultrasound. Confirm the dates. Today? I asked. She nodded. Today. I checked my watch. 9:20. I will drive, I said. Her brows lifted. You have meetings. I have a possible child, I said. The meetings can wait. For the first time, something like real warmth moved across her face. Not a smile, a crack of light. Grab your jacket then, she said. Partner. I took the test from her hand and set it gently back on the napkin. After you, I said. When we walked out to my car, the air felt cold and sharp. As I opened the passenger door for her, my phone buzzed. New email. Subject line. HR review attendance mandatory. I stared at it for a beat. Elena, I said, HR just sent something. She slid into the seat and buckled her belt. Her jaw tightened. Of course they did, she said. Good, let them wait. She met my eyes across the roof of the car. First, she said, we see the heartbeat. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and weak coffee. A children's cartoon played on the waiting room TV with the sound turned down. A little boy kicked his shoes against a plastic chair while his mom scrolled her phone. I sat next to Elena, staring at the floor tiles like they had answers. She sat straight, coat folded in her lap, that same calm posture she used in board meetings. A strand of hair slipped out of place and brushed her cheek. She tucked it back like she caught mistakes for a living. You can still leave, she said quietly. I turned my head. Do you want me to leave? Her fingers tightened on her coat. No. Then I stay, I said. A nurse opened the door. Elena Thorne. Elena stood at once. I stood with her without thinking, a half step behind, like I always did in client meetings. Partner Thorne, the nurse asked. Elena, she corrected. This is Julian. The exam room was too bright. The paper on the table crinkled when she climbed up. She moved like she did not want help from anyone. The ultrasound tech smiled and set out gel and a small probe on a tray. Cold, the tech warned. Elena's jaw locked when the gel touched her skin. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table. My hands hung useless at my sides. I hesitated, then lifted my right wrist toward her. Not my hand. My wrist. A choice. Her eyes flicked to mine. Then she wrapped her fingers around it. Her grip was firm, warm. It said stay without a word. The screen flickered. At first, it was just white and gray shapes. Then the tech clicked a few buttons and pointed. There, she said. That flicker. That is the heartbeat. I felt it in my chest before I understood what I was seeing. A small oval on the screen, a tiny movement inside it, a fast little flutter. My own heart stumbled. Elena stared at the monitor. Her face went blank in that way she had when something hit too hard. Her fingers clamped down on my wrist until my pulse jumped under her thumb. That is 8 weeks, the tech said. Right on time with the date you gave. Everything looks normal. 8 weeks. The retreat. It lined up. The baby on the screen was not a chart anymore. It was a fact. Do you want to hear it? The tech asked. Elena's throat moved. Yes. Sound filled the room. A quick, steady whooshing. Not human pace. Faster. Fierce. My eyes burned. Elena did not cry. She never cried in front of anyone if she could help it, but her grip on my wrist trembled. The door opened. Oh, I am sorry. Wrong room. Marcus stood there with a folder in his hand and a surprised smile already on his face. His eyes did not go to the monitor first. They went to Elena's hand on my wrist. I moved without thinking. One step. My shoulders blocked his view of her in the screen. My hand closed over Elena's fingers, not to peel them off, but to keep them there. Occupied, I said, voice flat. Marcus's smile barely changed, but his eyes sharpened. Congratulations, he said. I did not know. I will let you two finish. He stepped out and pulled the door shut. Elena's fingers dug into my skin, not from fear of Marcus, from anger, from the knowledge that he had seen enough. The tech pretended nothing happened. She finished her measurements and printed a small black and white photo, a tiny shape in the center. She handed it to Elena like a passport. Take care of yourself, the tech said. In the parking lot, the wind cut through my shirt. Elena stood beside my car, staring at the little printout. Her other hand rested low on her stomach. It is mine, I said. It did not come out as a question this time. Yes, she said, it is. A simple answer. It hit me harder than any long speech. What are you going to do? I asked. She looked up at the clouds, not at me. What I always do, she said. Get the facts, pick a strategy, fight. Her eyes dropped back to mine. And you? I stand with you, I said, whatever that fight looks like. We drove back to the city in silence. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I did not check it. Elena stared straight ahead, one hand on her seatbelt, the other on that small envelope with the photo inside. When we walked into the studio, the air felt wrong. People glanced up from their screens, then away. My inbox pinged. HR review attendance mandatory. Conference room B. 1 hour. Elena's phone buzzed too. She read the message and exhaled through her nose. Of course, she said. They move fast when it is gossip. She did not take my arm. She did not touch me. But she walked to the conference room door and held it open long enough that I had to pass right by her shoulder. It was a small show. To everyone watching, it looked like nothing. To me, it felt like a choice. Inside, Denise from HR sat with a laptop. A man in a Navy suit sat beside her with a legal pad. Marcus was already at the table, pen in hand, mask of concern on his face. Thank you for coming, Denise said. We are conducting an inquiry into a possible conflict of interest. Elena stayed standing. She did not sit at the head of the table. She stood behind a chair, hands on the back like she was about to move it herself. Before you ask questions, she said, you need to note that my counsel is present. The man in the Navy suit nodded. Any discussion about discipline or policy enforcement needs to be on the record, he said, preferably with video. Denise looked thrown. We just want to understand what is going on. Then we schedule a formal meeting, Elena said. We invite the board. We turn on the cameras. We do not drag a pregnant partner and her direct report into a quiet room and call it procedure. Marcus leaned back. Selective enforcement, Elena? No one is attacking you. Her eyes cut to him, cold, precise. Then stop hovering over my HR file like you own it, she said. The lawyer cleared his throat. This conversation is over, he said calmly. Any further questions can be sent to my office. He stood up. Elena did not wait for permission. She turned and walked out. I followed. In the hallway, the glass walls of the studio reflected us. Her in a sharp blazer, jaw locked. Me in a wrinkled shirt and a face that felt like it had aged 10 years in one morning. We reached the elevator. She pressed the button. I stood beside her, close enough to feel the heat from her arm. You do not have to defend me, I said. I am not defending you, she answered. I am defending the work. And I am defending myself. You are just in the blast radius. The doors slid open. We stepped inside alone. The doors closed. The quiet wrapped around us. Elena let out one long breath. Some of the iron in her shoulders melted. Just a little. I am sorry, I said. I did not know exactly what I was apologizing for. All of it, maybe. She shook her head. Do not apologize for being in the picture. He was always going to come for me. You are just the tool he picked up. The elevator hummed. My hand hung at my side. I wanted to reach for her and did not know how. When the doors opened on the ground floor, she stepped out first. I followed her out of the building. She did not ask me to. She also did not tell me to stay. That night, my phone buzzed with a short text. Sensor is dead. Porch light. Can you fix it? I stared at the screen for maybe 5 seconds. Then I grabbed my tool bag and my jacket. Her house sat back from the street, quiet and dark. The porch light was dead. The last 2 steps were swallowed by shadow. She opened the door as I walked up, like she had been listening for my truck. You brought tools, she said. You asked, I said. She stepped aside to let me in. I set the ladder up under the dead fixture and worked in simple steps. Cover off, loose wire, twist, cap, tighten, breaker, switch. The light snapped on. The stone path turned warm and safe. Shadows moved back. Elena looked up at it and let out a long, slow breath. 4 minutes, she said. 5. I answered. A ghost of a smile passed over her mouth. In the kitchen, I unpacked a small bag of groceries. Stock, rice, ginger, bread. My hands knew what to do when my head did not. Cook, stir, season. Take care of what you can reach. The house started to smell like soup instead of cold air. The pregnancy test sat on the counter on a napkin, like a piece of evidence in an empty courtroom. Sit, I said. You are giving orders now? She asked. Just one, I said. Eat. She sat at the island. I placed a bowl in front of her and one in front of me. We ate in quiet. The only sound was the soft clink of spoons and the low hum of the heater. My foot brushed hers under the counter. I did not move away. A second later, her toes pressed back, just once. My eyes drifted to the test between us. Elena, I said, tell me one more time. About that night. She set her spoon down. Her fingers traced the edge of the bowl. You were freezing, she said. You asked. I said yes. You leaned in. I did not stop you. We made a bad decision for the right reasons. She looked up at me. I do not blame you, she said, but this will not be gentle. They will try to destroy you, Julian. I pushed my bowl away and stood. My legs felt heavy, but my choice did not. They can hit me first, I said. I can live with that. I cannot live with pretending this did not happen, or that I do not want this baby. She stood too, close now, close enough that I could see the fine lines around her eyes from years of work and not enough sleep. Close enough that I could see fear and anger and something softer behind it. Her hand lifted. She hesitated once. Then she caught my wrist again like she had in the exam room. Do not let go, she said quietly. I curled my fingers around hers. I am not going anywhere. I said. For the first time since that plastic stick clicked against her counter, she closed her eyes and let her forehead rest against my chest. I did not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw two pink lines, a gray hallway, and Marcus's face in the doorway of the exam room. Just after sunrise, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. No name, no subject, just one email with a small paperclip icon. I should have deleted it. I opened it instead. The subject line was one word: evidence. My stomach dropped. Inside, there were 3 grainy photos. The kind you get when someone zooms in from far away. The first was from the retreat. I was at the lodge bar, jacket off, shirt wrinkled, standing too close to Elena's chair. My hand rested on the back of her seat, my body turned toward her like she was the only person in the room. The second was from the clinic hallway, cropped tight. Elena's fingers wrapped around my wrist, my head bent toward her. The shot had caught the precise angle where our faces were too close to be just colleagues. The third was from her porch yesterday. She stood in the doorway holding the test. I was outside in my gray shirt, one hand on the screen door, body leaning in. No captions, no explanation. Just pictures and the quiet message under them. Someone is watching. My first thought was simple and ugly. Marcus. By the time I got dressed, my phone buzzed again. A new notification. Access error. Badge not recognized. I tried again at the studio lobby. The scanner beeped red instead of green. Security glanced at each other. "Mr. Rains," one of them said, "HR asked us to escort you upstairs." My jaw clenched. Did they say why? "Board directive," the guard answered. "Pending review." Quote. He said it gently, like patting around a wound. From the far side of the lobby, I saw Marcus near the model display. He pretended to be surprised to see me. His eyebrows lifted, his mouth pulled into a sympathetic line like a pastor at a funeral. I wanted to cross the lobby and wipe that look off his face. Instead, I followed the guards into the elevator. On the design floor, people stared and then quickly looked away. HR had put a cardboard box on my desk. It was too neat and too empty at the same time. Denise from HR approached with a folder in her arms. "Julian," she said, "while we conduct a formal investigation, the board has requested you leave the premises. This is a precaution, not a judgment." "That decision came fast," I said. Her gaze flicked to Marcus, who was suddenly very interested in a model of the Dover atrium across the room. Elena stepped out of the executive corridor then. Her heels clicked once on the polished floor, just once. Then she saw the box. The guards. Me. Her eyes went sharp. "What is this?" she asked. "Board directive," Denise repeated, "pending review of policy violations and potential misconduct." Elena did not look at me. She walked straight to Marcus. "You did this," she said softly. He lifted his hands. "I am protecting the firm. We cannot ignore what we were sent." "Photos from a clinic," she said. "A medical visit. You are playing politics with my health and my life." "We have to consider power dynamics," he replied. "Optics. Our clients expect." "Stop talking like this is about ethics," she cut in. "You saw an opening and you took it." She turned to the guards. "He is not a threat," she said, nodding at me. "You are escorting the wrong person." Training and paychecks held them where they were. I slid my laptop and a couple of notebooks into the box. My hands shook only once. I forced them still. At the elevator, Elena walked beside me. Not touching, just there. She did not care who saw. At the revolving door, she stopped. "Go home," she said quietly. "Do not answer any calls that are not from me or from my lawyer. Do not post. Do not react." "Are you safe here?" I asked. Her mouth tightened. "I am Elena Thorne. I know how to fight." "That is not what I asked." She held my gaze for a moment. "I will not let them decide this for me," she said, "or for our child." The word child hit something inside me I did not know how to name yet. My hand went to the door. It stuck there, gripping the metal. I could not make myself step through. "Julian," she said quietly, I turned. Her eyes were darker than I had ever seen them, not empty, full. "Say you are coming back," she said. "I am not disappearing," I answered. The promise surprised even me with how solid it felt. "You will have to kick me out yourself." A small breath left her lips. That was all. She turned and walked back into the building like she owned the floor again. I walked out into the cold with a cardboard box and a knot in my chest. Hours passed in my apartment. The fridge hummed. My phone lit up and went dark. Blocked numbers, unknown numbers, silence from the only one I wanted to hear from. I tried to work. I stared at an empty screen. Every time my mind drifted to the retreat night, it slid around like it was hitting ice. Fragments. Firelight. Her hand in mine. The weight of her beside me under a heavy blanket. The feeling of my body finally warming, not from the heat, but from her. Brown out, not blackout. My brain had kept going. My heart had known exactly what it was doing. The missing pieces scared me, but not enough to change the truth. I did not regret it. I wanted this baby. I wanted her. A knock hit my door. 3 firm raps. I opened it. Sarah from reception stood there with a paper bag and an annoyed frown. "You look terrible," she said, shoving the bag into my chest. "Eat." "What is this?" I asked. "Sandwich. Chips. A cookie," she said. "And I am not here. You did not see me. Open your laptop." "Sarah." "Now, Julian," she said. "She is speaking." My heart kicked. "Who?" "Elena," she said. "Board meeting. They made it public. Stream is on the firm site." She told security to let cameras in. I set the food down untouched and opened my laptop with shaking hands. The stream loaded to the sound of low voices. The camera panned across the studio atrium. Donors in suits. Employees standing behind rope lines. Board members in their stiff chairs. Elena stood at the podium, black suit, hair pinned back tight. No jewelry, no smile. Her hands rested on the edges of the lectern. She looked composed. To anyone else, she looked untouchable. I could see the small signs, the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers pressed hard into the wood. She started with business. Dover timelines, budget, milestones. Her voice carried like it always did. Clear, strong. Then she paused. "Before I talk about the future of this firm," she said, "I am going to make something clear." Noise in the room dropped. No one coughed. No one shuffled papers. Marcus stood behind and to the side of her, trying to look like support. I knew him well enough to see the calculation in his eyes. "I am pregnant," Elena said. No warming up, no soft landing, just truth. A ripple moved through the room. Someone dropped a pen. Cameras zoomed. "And I am choosing my family," she went on. "If this firm cannot accept that, I will walk out today." The board chair leaned toward his mic. "Partner Thorne, no one is asking you to leave. We simply—" "Elena," she corrected, "and you are asking more than you say." Her hand lifted. She set her badge down on the podium. The small plastic rectangle hit the wood with a sharp little tap that my speakers picked up. "In the last 24 hours, she said, "my private medical information was leaked. Photos were taken without my consent. An employee was escorted out for a relationship I have already taken responsibility for." My chest tightened. "In this company," she continued, "we talk a lot about ethics, about integrity, about building things that last. That does not just apply to glass and steel. It applies to how we treat people." Her eyes cut to Marcus. "Mr. Hale," she said, using his last name like a knife, "you will not use my pregnancy as your ladder." His jaw twitched. "If the board wants to review policy," she said, turning back to the chair, "do it properly. Bring in independent counsel. Put it on the record. Investigate all of it. The leak, the photos, the motives." She took a breath. "But I will not stand here and pretend I am ashamed of my child," she said. "Or of the man who helped create that life." My voice caught in my throat. She looked straight into the nearest camera lens. "Julian," she said. My name carried across the room and into my small apartment. Come home. The stream jittered for a second as the crowd shifted, whispering. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear the rest. Elena, the board chair said, let us discuss this privately, off camera. No, she said, you want to make decisions about my life. You can make them where everyone can see. Her badge still sat on the podium between her hands. I am not negotiating, she said. Reinstate him, end this harassment, or you can accept my resignation on camera. My chair scraped back. Sarah jumped. Where are you going? She asked. Home, I said, even though we both knew I was not talking about my apartment. I grabbed my keys and ran. By the time I reached the building, the atrium was chaos. People packed near the rope lines. Reporters had somehow slipped inside. Security tried to hold a line no one respected. I pushed through bodies, ignoring the annoyed looks and surprised shouts. Up ahead, I saw her, still at the podium, still standing straight. Board members clustered around her, talking fast. PR people waved their hands. Cameras hovered. Marcus moved toward her from the side, hand reaching for her elbow. My vision tunneled. I pushed past the last row of people and stepped into the open space near the front, heart hammering. One thought in my head. Reach her before he does. I reached her before he did. Marcus's hand was halfway to Elena's elbow when I stepped between them. My fingers wrapped around his wrist, not hard enough to make a scene, just hard enough that he had to stop. Don't, I said. Up close, his eyes weren't calm. They were furious. You shouldn't be here, he said through his teeth. You're suspended. Elena invited me home, I said. You heard her. Gasps moved through the crowd. Cameras shifted. Security hesitated. Elena turned toward us. Her gaze went straight to my hand on Marcus's wrist, then to my face. For a second, all the noise faded. It was just her and me and the small, rough heat of her fingers catching my jacket and holding on. Let go of him, she said. I released Marcus at once. I wasn't there to fight him. I was there to stand next to her. Elena stepped into my side like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her shoulder brushed mine. One of her hands stayed hooked to my jacket, like she needed the contact to stay upright, and couldn't admit it. The board chair cleared his throat into the microphone. Partner Thorne, he said, trying to sound in control. Let us move this discussion off camera. We can handle the particulars of your situation privately. Elena didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on me for 2 long seconds instead. You're staying? She asked, so quietly that the mic barely caught it. I'm staying, I said. She turned back to the board, still standing pressed against my side. She didn't move away. She made them see it. You heard my terms, she said. Independent review, full investigation of the leak. Reinstate Julian while you do it. Or accept my resignation, right now, on this stream. The chair's gaze flicked to the badge on the podium, then to the cameras, then to the back of the room where donors sat with tight mouths and unreadable eyes. Elena, he said, dropping her title, we appreciate your passion, but this is highly irregular. What happened to me is highly irregular, she answered. You want to talk about integrity? Show some. Silence stretched. Finally, another board member, an older woman with gray hair pulled back in a sharp bun, leaned to her mic. We cannot ignore a possible violation of privacy, she said, her eyes on Marcus, or the risk to the firm's reputation if we appear to tolerate that. The chair swallowed. Effective immediately, he said, we will appoint outside counsel to review these events. Mr. Rains is reinstated pending findings, and Mr. Hill will be suspended pending investigation into the source of the leaked material. Marcus went pale. You're making a mistake, he snapped. He is a liability. She is compromised. The only thing compromised here, Elena said, was my medical privacy. Security stepped closer to Marcus now, not to me. Someone cut the live stream. Voices rose. Reporters shouted questions. The red light on the nearest camera went dark. Through all of it, Elena's hand stayed in my jacket. Come with me, she said. We moved together through the crowd. People stepped aside. No one stopped us. No one dared. In the executive hallway, the noise from the atrium faded. The carpet muffled our steps. The glass office doors reflected us back like a mirror. Elena walked straight into the small conference room at the end of the hall. No windows. One long table, neutral gray walls. I followed her in. She shut the door and leaned back against it, breathing hard. I reached for the light switch. "Leave it low," she said. I left the corner lamp on. Warm light pooled across the table. The rest of the room stayed soft and dim. "Say it again," she said. My chest felt too tight. "Say what?" "That you're not disappearing," she said. "I need to hear it when it's just us. No cameras, no board." "I'm not disappearing," I said. "They can fire me, they can blacklist me, they can write articles about me. I'm still not leaving you alone in this." Her shoulders dropped an inch. Some of the steel melted. "You're going to lose clients," she said. "Your name is tied to mine now." "Good," I said. "I like your name." A small laugh escaped her. It sounded broken and perfect at the same time. She pushed off the door and came toward me, slow and steady. When she stopped, we were so close I could feel the heat of her body through my shirt. "Do you remember asking if it was yours?" she asked, voice low. I nodded. "Yeah." "You were scared," she said. "You tried to hide it, but you were. You looked like you were waiting for a verdict that would break you." "I was," I said, "because if it was someone else's, I would have had to walk away, and I didn't know how to do that." She lifted her chin. Her eyes found mine. "It's yours, Julian," she said. "All of this. The good, the hard, the ugly, the baby, the fallout. Me." My throat closed. "I know," I said, "and I'm still not sorry." Her fingers rose. She touched my jaw, just 2 knuckles along the edge of my beard. "I needed you to say that sober," she whispered. "Warm, with both feet under you. No blizzard, no brandy, no missing hours." "This is me," I said. "All here." Her hand slid to the back of my neck. "Close the door," she said softly. I stepped back long enough to twist the lock, then came right back to her. She met me halfway, her hands fisted in the front of my shirt. My palms found her waist, careful and firm. When her mouth touched mine, everything noisy and sharp in my head finally went quiet. It wasn't frantic, it wasn't careful. It was steady and sure, and full of every word we hadn't said out loud yet. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against my chest. "You know this doesn't fix everything," she said. "I know," I said. "They're still going to dig," she said. "They're still going to whisper. They're still going to question your promotion, and my judgment, and this baby's timing." "I know," I said again. "Let them." She tilted her head back to look up at me. "Why are you not more afraid?" she asked. "I am," I said. "But I've spent a year being half in and half out of your life. Afraid of crossing a line, afraid of losing the job. That almost broke me. This is the first thing that feels solid." Something in her eyes softened. The hard lines eased. "Then we do it on purpose," she said. Time moved in jumps after that. The independent review pulled our phones, our emails, our calendars. It traced the anonymous PDF back to a contractor Marcus had hired under a fake invoice. IT found the camera access logs, the late-night downloads, the edits. The leak wasn't just ugly, it was illegal. 2 weeks later, Marcus left the building with his own cardboard box and no escort. The board released a short statement about privacy and standards. The firm's PR team put out careful language about protecting all employees, not just partners. My badge came back with a new stripe on it, Associate Partner. My name moved from a cubicle to a glass office with a view. People said congratulations and avoided looking at my hand resting on Elena's lower back when we walked down the hall together. Elena kept her badge, she kept her equity. She kept her chin up in meetings where people pretended nothing had happened. She also started leaving the office at 6 instead of 9. Her house changed too. The small spare room that used to be a dumping ground for old pamphlets and sample boards turned into a nursery. I painted the walls a soft, warm color that looked like morning light. She sat in the doorway with a mug of tea, giving opinions about trim while pretending not to watch my every move. On a Saturday, I brought in boxes and tools and laid the parts of a crib out on the floor. "You know we could pay someone to do that," she said from the hall, one hand on the small of her back now that her stomach had really started to show. "I know," I said, dropping a handful of bolts onto the rug, "but then you'd miss out on the thrill of watching me swear at tiny Allen wrenches." Her mouth curved. "I like watching you build things that don't fall down." Quote, I knelt and started assembling the frame. My hands found a rhythm. Slot, bolt, tighten. Check, move. Behind me, I heard her slide down the wall to sit on the floor, slower than she used to. When I glanced over my shoulder, she had a small box open in front of her. Inside were ultrasound pictures, a folded napkin from the first night I brought soup, and the pregnancy test. Clean now, cap snapped back on. The lines were faint from time, but still there. "You kept that," I said. She ran her thumb over the plastic. "It changed everything," she said. I thought about throwing it away a dozen times. I couldn't. I tightened another bolt. My throat felt tight. She watched me for a while in silence, then spoke again. "They offered me time off," she said, "at the last board meeting." "You didn't tell me that," I said. "I knew what it really was," she said. A polite way to move me aside, to see if I would choose work over the baby. "What did you say?" I asked. I said no, she answered. I said I'm staying. I said I have a partner now, at home and at work. Quote, she looked at me when she said it, like she was making sure I understood. I did. The crib frame finally stood solid and square. I gave it a last shake. It didn't wobble. I sat down beside her against the wall. The room smelled like new wood, fresh paint, and the jasmine candle she'd lit on the windowsill. Under it all, there was the faint scent of cedar from the dresser we'd built last week. She took my hand without looking and guided it to her belly. "Just wait," she said. For a second, nothing. Then a small push under my palm. Not a big kick, just a rolling press against my skin. I froze. "That's them," she said, "every night around this time. They like to practice." My chest felt like it was going to split open. I flexed my fingers gently, not pressing hard, just holding. "Hey," I said quietly, to someone who couldn't hear me yet. "It's me." The baby pushed again, stronger this time, like an answer. Elena's head leaned against my shoulder. Her hair brushed my jaw. Warmth pooled where our bodies touched. The house was quiet. No cameras, no board, no gossip. Just us and the soft creak of the house settling around us. "You still scared?" she asked after a while. "Yes," I said honestly. "Of messing this up. Of not being enough. Of saying the wrong thing to the wrong client and tanking everything. Of not sleeping for 3 years." She laughed, low and real. "I'm scared too," she said. "Of labor. Of being a good mother. Of losing myself. Of loving you this much and having all of it in one place." I turned my head and kissed her hair. "We'll be scared together," I said. "That's fair." She was quiet for a moment. Then she slid her fingers between mine on her stomach. "Julian," she said softly. "Yeah." "Don't close the door on us," she said. "Not when it gets hard. Not when work is loud. Not when the baby won't sleep." "I won't," I said. "That's over. No more standing outside the glass. I'm in." The baby kicked again under our hands, a small, fierce rhythm. I looked at the half-built crib, the tiny clothes folded on the chair, the badge in my pocket, and the woman who had once ordered me around a studio like I was replaceable. Now she was leaning on me and handing me the one thing she had never trusted anyone with, her future. I tightened my fingers around hers and kept my hand on our child, feeling every small movement like a promise I had already started to keep.